Your mind can either be your greatest weapon or your deadliest enemy. The thoughts you allow in will either lift you higher or chain you to the ground. The truth is, most people don't fail because of lack of talent, but because they allow negativity to take over their thinking. Today, I'm going to give you 5 simple yet life-changing ways to crush negativity in your mind so you can finally step into the life you were created to live. Your mind is like fertile soil, and whatever seeds you plant in it will eventually grow. The problem is that most people are careless about what gets planted in their mental garden. They allow weeds of negativity, news filled with fear, conversations dripping with gossip, and entertainment soaked in despair, to settle in without realizing how much damage it causes over time. Just like a farmer who knows that the soil will grow anything, whether weeds or crops. You must recognize that your mind will produce results based on the input you consistently allow in. If you let negative seeds in, negativity will grow naturally, and if you let empowering seeds in, confidence and strength will grow. Controlling the input is not about ignoring reality, but about choosing what kind of reality you want to magnify and build within your thoughts. Because the truth is, the input you consume most often eventually becomes the narrative you believe about yourself, and that narrative becomes your destiny. Think about the media you consume daily. How many hours do you spend scrolling on social media, absorbing endless comparisons, arguments, and half-truths? How often do you turn on the news only to hear about disasters, corruption, and fear-driven headlines? Every single one of these inputs shapes your subconscious mind, often without your awareness. It's no wonder so many people feel anxious, hopeless, or unmotivated. Their mental diet is filled with junk food. Just as your body becomes unhealthy when you eat processed food every day, your mind becomes unhealthy when you feed it negative or meaningless content. Controlling the input means deciding what goes into your mind with the same discipline you'd apply to your physical health. You wouldn't eat spoiled food just because it's on the table, so why would you consume destructive information just because it's easily accessible? The company you keep is also a major form of input. The people you spend time with are either pouring water or pouring poison into your mind. If you constantly surround yourself with complainers, critics, and dream killers, it's only a matter of time before their negativity infects your mindset. Energy is contagious, and whether you realize it or not, you absorb the attitudes, habits, and perspectives of those around you. This is why successful people are extremely intentional about their circles. They choose to be around encouragers, visionaries, and problem solvers who lift them higher instead of dragging them down. If you want to crush negativity, you must first evaluate the voices around you and ask yourself whether those voices are helping you rise or holding you back. It might feel uncomfortable to distance yourself from certain people, but protecting your peace and potential is worth far more than maintaining toxic connections. Books, podcasts, speeches, and even the music you listen to all play a significant role in shaping your mental atmosphere. Every piece of content carries a frequency, a message, and an energy. If your playlist is filled with lyrics of despair, anger, or hopelessness, your subconscious is feeding on that day after day. But if you intentionally fill your ears with words of empowerment, faith, and resilience, your inner world begins to align with strength. One audiobook filled with wisdom can reframe your entire perspective, just as one powerful speech can light a fire in your spirit. The question isn't whether your mind is being influenced, it's whether you are choosing what influences it. Controlling your input requires intentional selection, like curating a personal library for your soul. Another layer of input comes from the self-talk you entertain. Many people don't realize that their own thoughts are often recycled input from their environment. If you grew up hearing constant criticism, chances are your inner voice is harsh and negative. If you've been in environments that emphasized failure and fear, your mind may default to doubt. But here's the empowering truth. You have the ability to reprogram your inner voice by deliberately choosing new input. When you expose yourself repeatedly to messages of growth, encouragement, and belief, you start to overwrite the old scripts running in your head. This is why affirmations, journaling, and consistent exposure to positive ideas are so powerful. They act as new seeds that eventually outgrow the weeds of negativity. Technology has made it easier than ever to control the input if you're intentional. You can subscribe to podcasts that inspire you, follow accounts that uplift instead of discourage, and create playlists of motivational content that keep your energy high. Instead of waking up and checking your phone for chaos, you can wake up and listen to something that sets your day on fire with purpose. Instead of mindlessly scrolling through negativity, you can fill your downtime with lessons, stories, and voices that align with the future you want to build. The challenge isn't the availability of good input, it's your discipline to choose it consistently over the easy path of distraction and negativity. Controlling the input also requires creating boundaries. It's not enough to just add positive content. You must actively eliminate negative sources. Just like a doctor prescribes both healthy food and the removal of harmful substances, your mental health requires both nourishment and detox. This may mean unfollowing certain accounts, turning off the television, setting limits on news consumption, or even stepping away from environments that constantly drag you into pessimism. You can't drink clean water if the pipe is still leaking poison, and you can't fully experience positivity if you're still plugged into negativity every day. Boundaries are not about being selfish. They are about being wise enough to protect the state of your mind. Over time, the results of controlling your input are undeniable. You begin to notice that your thoughts become lighter, your energy more focused, and your vision clearer. Problems that used to overwhelm you now feel manageable, simply because your mind isn't already weighed down by constant negativity. You begin to attract better opportunities, not because the world suddenly changed, but because your perspective changed, and with it, your ability to recognize and act on possibility. When you take full control of the input, you transform your mental environment into a place where positivity naturally thrives and negativity struggles to survive. Every single day, thousands of thoughts run through your mind, and the truth is, not all of them are accurate. Not all of them are helpful, and certainly not all of them are rooted in truth. Many of the thoughts you experience are simply echoes of fear, past failures, or outside influences that have left an imprint on your subconscious. Yet, most people make the mistake of assuming that every thought they think is valid. They treat their mind like a courtroom, where every negative thought automatically becomes a verdict, rather than a witness that needs to be cross-examined. To crush negativity in your mind, you must learn the discipline of challenging every negative thought instead of surrendering to it. This means developing the skill of stopping, questioning, and reframing whenever a toxic or limiting idea shows up in your head, because if you don't challenge your thoughts, they will challenge your future. Think about how many times a negative thought has whispered, "You're not good enough," "You'll never make it," or "Why even bother trying?" These thoughts may appear harmless at first, but if you don't stop them at the gate, they begin to take root. Over time, they create invisible barriers that shape your decisions, your confidence, and your actions. Someone who constantly believes they're not good enough will avoid opportunities, hide their potential, and sabotage their own growth, all because of thoughts that were never even questioned. Challenging negative thoughts is about shining a light on the lies your mind tells you so they lose their power. Just because a thought shows up doesn't mean it deserves space in your head. One powerful way to challenge a negative thought is to ask for evidence. When your mind tells you you're going to fail, pause and ask, "What proof do I have of that?" Most of the time, you'll find that there is no solid evidence, just fear, memory of a past mistake, or someone else's opinion you absorbed. Then take it a step further and ask, "What proof do I have that I can succeed?" Suddenly, your brain is forced to look for positive evidence, and you'll begin to uncover moments of strength, times you overcame challenges, and instances where you proved your own resilience. The more you practice questioning your negative thoughts, the less authority they carry, and the more you train your mind to default to empowerment instead of defeat. Challenging thoughts is also about recognizing distortions. Many negative thoughts are not only untrue, but exaggerated to extremes. For example, if you make a small mistake at work, your mind might scream, "You're a complete failure." That's a distortion. If you forget to call a friend back, your brain might say, "You're a terrible person." Again, distortion. The human brain has a way of blowing things out of proportion, turning small errors into massive judgments. But when you recognize these patterns, you can reframe them. Instead of, "I'm a failure," you can say, "I made a mistake, but I can learn from it." Instead of, I'm terrible, you can say, I slipped up, but I'm capable of making it right. This shift might seem small, but over time, it rewires your entire perspective, making negativity weaker and positivity stronger. Another layer of challenging negative thoughts is to evaluate the source. Sometimes the thoughts running in your mind aren't even yours. They are borrowed voices from parents, teachers, peers, or critics from your past. Maybe you were told you weren't smart enough, and now whenever you face a challenge, that voice repeats in your head. Maybe you were laughed at when you failed, and now the fear of embarrassment shows up as a thought that says, don't even try. When you identify where these thoughts come from, you gain the power to separate yourself from them. You begin to realize, this isn't my truth. It's just an echo from someone else's opinion. That awareness alone can break the chain of negativity and allow you to replace those old voices with your own empowered beliefs. Challenging negative thoughts also requires persistence, because these thoughts are stubborn. They won't disappear after the first time you question them. Like an old habit, they return out of routine. But every time you confront them, you weaken their hold, and every time you replace them with empowering truths, you strengthen your mindset. Think of it like training a muscle. At first it feels difficult and uncomfortable to push against the resistance of negativity, but the more you do it, the stronger your mental muscles become. Eventually, challenging negative thoughts becomes second nature, and positivity becomes your default setting rather than the exception. It's also important to understand that negative thoughts thrive in silence and secrecy. The more you keep them hidden in your mind, the louder they grow. But when you speak them out loud and challenge them with truth, their power begins to shrink. For example, if you're feeling like you can't achieve something, say it out loud and then immediately counter it with a stronger affirmation. I can't do this becomes I am capable and I will find a way. When you give your positive counter-thought a voice, it carries authority and begins to dominate your mental environment. This practice isn't about ignoring reality. It's about choosing which reality to reinforce, the one driven by fear or the one driven by faith. The act of challenging thoughts also teaches you self-awareness. It forces you to slow down and actually notice what's happening inside your head, instead of living on autopilot. Many people don't even realize how negative their internal dialogue is until they pause to listen. But once you start catching these thoughts, you'll be shocked at how often your mind tries to limit you. Awareness is the first step to change. You can't fight an enemy you don't see, and by bringing your negative thoughts into the open, you begin the process of reclaiming control over them. Over time, this discipline of questioning and reframing creates a new habit. Instead of immediately believing everything your mind throws at you, you build the habit of becoming an investigator of truth. You don't just let a negative thought set the tone for your day. You test it, dissect it, and replace it with something that serves your growth. And as this becomes your natural way of thinking, you start to notice a deeper sense of confidence, peace, and resilience. Challenges no longer feel overwhelming because you know how to silence the destructive voice in your head and replace it with a voice of strength. Negativity may still knock on the door, but you'll have the power to decide whether it gets to come in or stay out. The environment you live in is one of the most powerful forces shaping your thoughts, your emotions, and ultimately your destiny. No matter how strong you think you are, no matter how disciplined you try to be, the truth is that your surroundings have a profound influence on your mindset. You cannot expect to maintain a positive outlook if every day you are breathing in negativity, criticism, and doubt from the people and environments around you. Energy is contagious, and whether you realize it or not, you are absorbing it constantly. If you want to crush negativity in your mind, one of the most effective strategies is to surround yourself with positive energy, people, places, and influences that lift you higher instead of pulling you lower. Because you can't consistently stay inspired if your circle is filled with despair, and you can't build a strong mindset if you're living in an environment designed to tear it down. Think about the people you interact with most often. Every conversation you have either adds fuel to your fire or drains it. There are people who speak life into your dreams, who encourage you to keep moving, and who believe in your potential even when you doubt yourself. Being around them feels like breathing fresh air. You leave the conversation with more energy, more hope, and more determination. On the other hand, there are people who constantly complain, criticize, and discourage. No matter how excited you are about something, they will find a way to highlight why it won't work. Their words weigh you down like heavy chains, and if you aren't careful, you start to internalize their negativity until it becomes your own. Surrounding yourself with positive energy means making intentional choices about who gets access to your mind and heart, because your environment will either nourish your growth or poison it. The principle of association is powerful. If you want to know where your life is headed, look at the 5 people you spend the most time with. If they are ambitious, disciplined, and optimistic, chances are you'll start adopting those same qualities. If they are pessimistic, lazy, and negative, those traits will rub off on you too. It doesn't matter how strong your willpower is. Your environment eventually shapes your habits and your outlook. This is why it's so critical to choose carefully. You don't have to cut people out of your life harshly, but you do need to adjust how much access you give them. Limit your exposure to people who drain your energy, and increase your exposure to those who inspire and empower you. It's not about being cold, it's about protecting your mental space so you can grow into the best version of yourself. Positive energy doesn't only come from people, it also comes from the places you choose to spend your time. Certain environments carry heaviness with them. If you're always in spaces filled with chaos, clutter, or conflict, your mind will naturally absorb that negativity. But when you intentionally create or visit spaces that feel uplifting, whether it's a quiet park, a library, a clean workspace, or a place of worship, you allow your mind to recharge with peace and clarity. Your surroundings should reflect the energy you want to carry. Even something as simple as keeping your room organized, playing uplifting music, or decorating your space with reminders of your goals can shift the energy of your environment and, as a result, your mindset. Another key aspect of surrounding yourself with positive energy is intentionally seeking out mentors, leaders, and communities that elevate your perspective. Sometimes, the people closest to you may not always be the most positive, and that's where books, podcasts, videos, and online communities come in. You can fill your world with voices that encourage growth, even if you don't have those people physically near you. One powerful conversation with a mentor, one inspiring story from a leader, or one empowering message from a community can do more for your mindset than 100 negative conversations could undo. The beauty of the modern world is that you have access to positivity at your fingertips. You just have to choose to plug into it instead of constantly connecting with negativity. Protecting your energy also means setting clear boundaries. You must become comfortable saying no to people or environments that consistently bring you down. This doesn't mean you don't care for them, but it means you care for yourself enough to recognize the impact they have on your life. If you constantly allow people to dump their negativity on you, you'll eventually carry burdens that were never yours to begin with. But when you establish boundaries, limiting the time, energy, and emotional space you give to negativity, you reclaim control over your own atmosphere. Positive energy is not about pretending problems don't exist. It's about being in spaces where solutions, encouragement, and faith are stronger than doubt and despair. It's also important to realize that surrounding yourself with positive energy isn't a one-time decision. It's an ongoing practice. Life will always introduce new people and new environments, and you will constantly have to evaluate whether they add to your growth or take away from it. At times, you may even need to reinvent your circle completely in order to align with the future you're building. This can feel uncomfortable, especially if it means leaving behind familiar environments, but growth often requires stepping out of comfort zones. Choosing positive energy is choosing the long-term health of your mind over the short-term ease of staying where you are. When you consistently surround yourself with positive energy, your entire perspective shifts. Challenges no longer feel overwhelming because you have people reminding you of your strength. Doubts lose their power because your environment constantly reinforces belief. Even when life gets difficult, the right surroundings can help you keep moving forward because positivity acts like fuel for resilience. Over time, your environment becomes a mirror of your mindset, and your mindset becomes a reflection of your environment. By surrounding yourself with positive energy, you create a cycle where growth feeds on growth, where strength breeds more strength, and where negativity finds no place to survive. Gratitude is one of the simplest, yet most powerful tools you can use to crush negativity in your mind, because it changes the lens through which you view your entire life. Negativity thrives on lack. It focuses on what's missing, what's broken, and what's not working. Gratitude, on the other hand, shifts your attention to what you already have, what is working, and what blessings surround you right now. The human brain cannot focus on gratitude and negativity at the same time. When you choose gratitude, you automatically starve negativity of its oxygen. Practicing gratitude daily is not about ignoring your struggles or pretending your problems don't exist. It's about training your mind to see the good that coexists with the difficulties, so you remain strong enough to overcome challenges without being consumed by despair. Gratitude doesn't eliminate hardship, but it transforms your perspective so that you see hope and opportunity even in the darkest seasons. Most people go through life waiting for something big to happen before they feel grateful. They think gratitude is reserved for milestones like promotions, new homes, or major breakthroughs. But the secret of gratitude is that it becomes most powerful when it's applied to the small, ordinary moments of life. Waking up in the morning, having food on the table, being able to breathe deeply, spending time with loved ones, these are blessings we often overlook because they feel too common. Yet when you train yourself to notice and appreciate these daily gifts, you begin to realize how abundant your life already is. Negativity loses its grip when your heart is full of appreciation for what you already possess, because it can no longer convince you that you are lacking. The practice of gratitude shifts your focus from scarcity to abundance, and that shift alone can completely transform your emotional state. Gratitude also reprograms your brain. Neuroscience has shown that when you practice gratitude consistently, you literally rewire your brain to look for positives instead of negatives. The more you intentionally acknowledge things to be thankful for, the stronger your brain becomes at spotting blessings automatically. It's like building a mental muscle. At first, it feels unnatural. You have to pause, think, and consciously find things to appreciate. But over time, it becomes your default way of thinking. Instead of immediately noticing what's wrong, your mind starts noticing what's right. Instead of dwelling on obstacles, you begin focusing on possibilities. This mental rewiring is why gratitude is such a powerful weapon against negativity. You are essentially training your brain to be your ally instead of your enemy. A practical way to apply this is through a daily gratitude ritual. Start your mornings or end your evenings by listing 3 to 5 things you're thankful for. Write them down in a journal or say them out loud. The key is to be specific. Don't just write, "I'm grateful for my life." Write, "I'm grateful for the laughter I shared with my friend today." Or, "I'm grateful for the warm meal I had after a long day." Specific gratitude penetrates deeper because it forces you to relive the moment in your mind, which reinforces the positive emotion associated with it. Over time, this practice builds an internal reservoir of positivity that negativity struggles to penetrate. When a hard day comes, you can draw strength from the memory of hundreds of things you've written down, reminding yourself that your life is richer than your current struggle suggests. Gratitude also reshapes relationships. When you focus on what you appreciate about the people in your life, you naturally strengthen your connection with them. Instead of criticizing what they lack, you begin valuing what they bring. This shift creates a ripple effect because people respond positively when they feel appreciated. A simple thank you, a word of acknowledgement, or an expression of appreciation can transform the energy of a relationship. And when your relationships are filled with positivity, your environment becomes more uplifting, which makes it even easier to maintain a positive mindset. Negativity often feeds on conflict and disconnection, but gratitude dissolves those sources by replacing them with connection and appreciation. Another powerful aspect of gratitude is its ability to change how you see challenges. It may sound unusual to practice gratitude for difficulties, but when you learn to see trials as teachers, you unlock a new level of resilience. Instead of saying, "Why is this happening to me?" gratitude allows you to say, "What is this teaching me?" Every challenge carries a lesson, and gratitude helps you extract that lesson instead of drowning in frustration. For example, losing a job might initially feel devastating, but through the lens of gratitude, you may realize it opened the door for you to pursue a better opportunity. A failure might feel painful, but gratitude reframes it as valuable experience that makes you wiser and stronger. By practicing gratitude even in hard times, you weaken negativity's hold because you refuse to give it the final word. Gratitude also shifts your energy physically and emotionally. When you focus on what you're thankful for, your stress decreases, your mood improves, and your overall sense of well-being rises. This isn't just a motivational idea, it's backed by science. Studies show that people who practice gratitude regularly experience lower levels of depression, better sleep, and improved physical health. The reason is simple. Gratitude changes your internal chemistry. It reduces the hormones connected with stress and increases those connected with happiness and peace. Negativity often thrives when your body feels tense and your emotions feel heavy, but gratitude lightens both, creating an environment where positivity can flourish. The practice of gratitude also extends beyond personal benefits. When you live with a grateful heart, you naturally radiate positivity to those around you. Gratitude makes you more generous, more compassionate, and more joyful, and these qualities influence the atmosphere wherever you go. You become the kind of person who uplifts others, and in turn, you attract more positivity into your own life. Negativity has a hard time surviving in the presence of someone who consistently expresses thankfulness, because gratitude shifts not only your inner world, but also the outer world you create for others. Over time, practicing gratitude daily transforms your identity. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstances and begin seeing yourself as someone blessed, capable, and equipped to handle whatever life throws your way. Gratitude gives you perspective. It reminds you that even in the middle of chaos, there is still good to be found. And when you live with that awareness, negativity no longer controls the narrative of your life, because gratitude writes a stronger story, one built on abundance, resilience, and appreciation. The words you speak carry immense power, not only in how others perceive you, but, more importantly, in how you perceive yourself. Every word you say is like a seed planted in the soil of your subconscious mind, and over time, those seeds grow into beliefs, habits, and actions. The challenge is that many people unknowingly speak death over themselves every single day. They casually say things like, "I'm so tired," "I'll never be successful," or "That's just not for people like me." These words may feel harmless in the moment, but spoken often enough, they become declarations that shape reality. To crush negativity in your mind, you must learn to speak life over yourself intentionally. The language you use is not just communication, it is programming. Every time you declare something about yourself, you are giving your mind instructions on how to think, how to feel, and how to act. Think about the moments in your life when your self-talk shaped your actions. Perhaps you told yourself you weren't smart enough to apply for a certain opportunity, so you didn't even try. Maybe you convinced yourself you weren't good enough in relationships, so you kept sabotaging them. Or maybe you constantly told yourself you were unlucky, and now every setback feels like proof of that belief. Words matter because they create the framework through which you see yourself. When you continually speak defeat, your mind becomes conditioned to expect it. But when you begin to speak life, to declare confidence, possibility, and strength, you change the entire narrative you live by. You are essentially rewriting the script of your destiny every time you open your mouth. Speaking life over yourself starts with awareness. Pay attention to the language you use daily. Are your words filled with complaints, doubts, and limitations? Or do they reflect hope, vision, and resilience? Most people don't even realize how negative their self-talk has become until they stop and listen. It often happens automatically, shaped by years of criticism, fear, or cultural conditioning. But the moment you become conscious of your words, you gain the power to change them. Awareness is the doorway to transformation, and the first step in speaking life is catching yourself when you are speaking death. Once you become aware, the next step is to replace negative declarations with positive affirmations. If you find yourself saying, "I can't do this," replace it with, "I am capable of finding a way." If you say, "I always fail," replace it with, "Every setback is preparing me for a comeback." If you say, "I'm not good enough," replace it with, "I am worthy and I am growing stronger every day." The shift may feel uncomfortable at first, especially if your mind is used to negativity, but consistency is the key. The more you repeat life-giving words, the more your subconscious begins to accept them as truth. And once your subconscious accepts something as truth, it starts aligning your actions to match it. This is why affirmations are not just motivational slogans. They are powerful reprogramming tools for your mind. It's also important to speak life not only in moments of strength, but especially in moments of weakness. It's easy to speak confidently when everything is going well, but the true test is when you're facing failure, rejection, or hardship. That is when negativity is the loudest, and that is when you must be intentional about using your voice to fight back. When you're exhausted, speak energy over yourself. When you're discouraged, speak encouragement. When you feel defeated, speak victory. Your words can become your greatest source of fuel if you train yourself to use them as weapons against negativity. You may not be able to control every circumstance, but you can always control what you declare over yourself in the midst of it. Speaking life over yourself also requires speaking in alignment with your vision, not just your current reality. Many people let their words be dictated by what they see in front of them. If they see struggle, they speak struggle. If they see lack, they speak lack. But speaking life means declaring not only where you are, but where you are going. It means speaking as if your goals are already in motion, as if your dreams are already unfolding. Instead of saying, "One day I'll be successful," you say, "I am on the path to success right now." Instead of saying, "I hope I get healthier," you say, "I am committed to becoming healthier every day." This forward-focused language conditions your mind to believe in the possibility of your vision, which pushes you to act in ways that make it a reality. The practice of speaking life also influences your emotions and energy. Words create atmosphere. Have you ever noticed how saying something negative out loud can instantly make you feel heavier, while saying something positive can immediately lift your spirit? That is not coincidence. It is the power of language. Your words trigger emotions, and those emotions influence your behavior. By consistently speaking life, you keep your emotions aligned with hope and strength, rather than despair and weakness. This doesn't mean you deny your struggles. It means you choose not to let your struggles define your voice. You use your voice to define the outcome you desire instead. Another crucial aspect of speaking life is consistency. It's not enough to speak positive words once in a while. You must make it a daily habit. Just like negative self-talk can slowly erode your confidence over time, positive declarations can slowly build it up until it becomes unshakable. Repetition is what makes affirmations powerful. The more often you say them, the deeper they sink into your subconscious. Over time, they stop feeling like forced statements and start feeling like undeniable truths. Eventually, you won't just be speaking life, you'll be living it, because your actions and mindset will reflect the words you've been declaring all along. It's also important to remember that speaking life over yourself doesn't mean ignoring reality or pretending everything is perfect. It means choosing to frame your reality in a way that empowers you rather than destroys you. It means acknowledging the challenges, but declaring that you are bigger than them. It means facing the storm, but refusing to let it dictate the words that come out of your mouth. Speaking life is about taking control of your narrative so that negativity has no room to dominate the conversation in your mind. Over time, as you make this a habit, you'll notice that the way you see yourself begins to shift. Confidence grows, resilience strengthens, and hope becomes more natural. Opportunities will start to feel within reach because your words have already conditioned your mind to expect them. People will notice the difference in your energy, because speaking life doesn't just change how you feel internally, it changes how you show up externally. You begin to carry yourself differently, act differently, and attract differently, all because you chose to use your words as a source of life rather than death. One of the greatest traps of negativity is the human tendency to dwell on problems. When something goes wrong, the natural impulse is to replay it in your mind, to analyze every mistake, and to talk endlessly about what went wrong. While reflection can be useful, living in a constant cycle of focusing on problems keeps you locked in frustration, anxiety, and helplessness. Problems by themselves are not what defeat you. It is the way you choose to handle them that determines whether you rise or stay stuck. If you spend all of your mental energy fixated on the problem, you magnify it until it feels larger than life. But when you train your mind to focus on solutions, you take back control of your perspective. Instead of being trapped in what went wrong, you begin creating pathways to what could go right. And that shift in focus can completely change the direction of your life. When you only see problems, your thinking becomes narrow. You begin to see limits everywhere. Every challenge feels final, every obstacle feels immovable, and every setback feels like the end of the road. But when you shift your attention towards solutions, your thinking expands. You start to see possibilities, new strategies, and opportunities that were invisible when you were consumed by the problem. This doesn't mean the problem disappears. It means you've taken away its power to paralyze you. You've moved from dwelling to doing, from complaining to creating, from being stuck to moving forward. The energy you once wasted on worry now becomes fuel for finding answers. Focusing on solutions also transforms your emotional state. Problems trigger fear, doubt, and stress. They drain your confidence and make you feel powerless, but solutions ignite hope, creativity, and determination. The moment you start asking, "What can I do to fix this?" instead of, "Why is this happening to me?" your emotions shift from despair to empowerment. You may not have all the answers right away, but the simple act of searching for a way forward gives you momentum. It pulls you out of passivity and into progress. Even small steps toward a solution can build a sense of accomplishment that slowly replaces the weight of negativity. This shift requires a deliberate mindset. Most people are conditioned to magnify problems because it feels safer. Focusing on the problem is easy. It requires no risk, no action, no creativity. It allows you to complain and gain sympathy without actually changing anything. But it also keeps you exactly where you are. Focusing on solutions demands courage because it forces you to take responsibility. It requires you to stop blaming circumstances and start asking what you can do differently. It demands that you rise above excuses and look for possibilities, even when none seem obvious. That's why solution-focused thinking is a mark of leaders, achievers, and people who refuse to let negativity control their lives. Another powerful aspect of focusing on solutions is that it trains your brain to adapt quickly. Life will always throw unexpected problems your way: financial challenges, relationship conflicts, career setbacks, health struggles. But if you've trained yourself to focus on solutions, you develop resilience. Instead of being thrown off course for weeks or months, you bounce back faster because your mind automatically looks for a way forward. You stop asking, "Why me?" and start asking, "What now?" This simple question shifts your energy from victimhood to victory. It creates a mindset where problems become stepping stones instead of stumbling blocks. Words matter, and the way you describe situations to yourself affects how you respond to them. A problem feels heavy, but a puzzle feels like something you can figure out. An obstacle feels permanent, but an opportunity feels like a chance to expand. This shift in language is subtle but powerful in rewiring how your mind approaches challenges. Another step is to ask solution-driven questions. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening?" ask, "What can I learn from this?" Instead of asking, "What went wrong?" ask, "What can I do differently next time?" Instead of saying, "I don't know what to do," say, "What are 3 possible steps I can take right now?" These questions shift your brain from passive observation to active problem solving. They force you to think creatively, and they keep you from spiraling into endless loops of negativity. Over time, your brain becomes conditioned to automatically look for solutions, which means negativity has less space to dominate your thoughts. Surrounding yourself with people who think in terms of solutions rather than problems also plays a huge role. Negativity spreads quickly, and if you're constantly around people who complain, blame, and dwell on problems, it becomes harder to rise above it. But if you're surrounded by people who focus on action, creativity, and progress, their mindset rubs off on you. You begin to see that there's always a way forward, always another angle, always a solution waiting to be discovered. These kinds of people reinforce your determination to stay focused on solutions instead of being trapped in the weight of problems. It's important to remember that focusing on solutions doesn't mean ignoring problems or pretending they don't exist. It means acknowledging them without letting them consume you. It's about directing more energy toward progress than toward complaint. It's about choosing to spend your time asking how to move forward rather than rehashing why things went wrong. Negativity loses its grip the moment you stop feeding it attention and start feeding the possibility of growth. Every minute spent complaining about the problem is a minute wasted. Every minute spent searching for solutions is an investment in your future. Over time, as you develop this habit, your confidence grows because you realize you can handle whatever comes your way. Problems no longer feel like walls, but like doors waiting to be unlocked. Negativity no longer feels overwhelming because you've trained yourself to focus on what you can do, not on what you can't control. This shift doesn't just change the way you think, it changes the way you live. You begin to take bolder risks, make clearer decisions, and pursue greater goals, because you know that even when problems arise, you have the ability to find solutions. This is the mindset that separates those who are crushed by life's challenges from those who use those same challenges as fuel to rise higher. Your state, the physical, mental, and emotional condition you are in at any given moment, determines how you experience life, how you respond to challenges, and how you interpret the world around you. When your state is low, negative thoughts flood your mind, your body feels heavy, and everything seems harder than it actually is. But when your state is high, you feel energized, focused, and unstoppable, even when difficulties come your way. The truth is, most people allow their state to be dictated by outside circumstances. If something goes wrong, their state drops. If something goes right, their state lifts. This reactive way of living keeps them at the mercy of events they cannot control. The real power comes when you decide to take charge of your state instead of waiting for life to do it for you. When you learn how to control your physiology, focus, and emotions, you crush negativity before it has a chance to take root in your mind. Taking control of your state begins with your body. Physiology has a direct impact on psychology. The way you sit, stand, move, and breathe tells your brain how to feel. If you sit slouched, breathe shallowly, and move sluggishly, your brain interprets that as sadness, fatigue, or defeat. But if you stand tall, breathe deeply, and move with energy, your brain interprets that as confidence and strength. This means you can shift your emotional state in seconds simply by changing your posture, breathing, or movement. That's why athletes, speakers, and leaders pay attention to their physical presence before they step into a challenge. They know their body sets the tone for their mind. If you want to overcome negativity, start by commanding your body to reflect the energy and confidence you want to feel, even before your mind catches up. Breathing is another powerful tool to reset your state. Most people breathe shallowly without realizing it, which keeps their body in a constant state of stress. Deep, intentional breathing signals calm to the nervous system and rebalances your emotions. When negativity begins to creep in, take a moment to breathe deeply, in through the nose, filling your lungs completely, and out through the mouth, releasing the tension. This simple act slows racing thoughts, clears mental fog, and creates space for more constructive thinking. It might seem too simple to matter, but breathing is one of the fastest and most reliable ways to take control of your state at any moment, and it's available to you anytime you choose to use it. Focus is the second pillar of state control. Where your focus goes, your energy flows. If you constantly focus on what is wrong, what is missing, or what is out of your control, negativity becomes your default state. But if you train yourself to focus on opportunities, blessings, and what you can control, positivity naturally flows into your mind. The challenge is that the human brain is wired with a negativity bias. It is naturally drawn to threats and problems as a survival mechanism. This means you must consciously redirect your focus if you want to control your state. Instead of fixating on the obstacle, train yourself to look at the possibilities it creates. Instead of dwelling on what went wrong, direct your focus toward what you can do next. This act of shifting focus changes your state instantly, because your emotions are tied not to reality itself, but to the part of reality you choose to focus on. Another key element of controlling your state is language. The words you use when describing situations to yourself or others determine how you feel about them. If you say you're devastated by a setback, your state collapses. But if you say you're challenged by it, your state remains open to solutions. Language shapes perception, and perception shapes your state. The next time negativity rises, listen to the words you're using. If your language makes the problem feel bigger, change the words to something that gives you power. Replacing "this is impossible" with "this is difficult but doable" shifts your state from hopelessness to determination. It's not about denying reality. It's about framing it in a way that keeps you in control of your response. Your environment also influences your state, and you must be intentional about managing it. The music you listen to, the places you spend time in, and the people around you all have the power to lift or lower your energy. If you surround yourself with negativity, dark environments, discouraging people, draining conversations, your state will consistently fall into negativity. But if you surround yourself with uplifting environments, energizing music, and encouraging people, your state rises with ease. Since you can't always change your external environment, it's important to create internal triggers that elevate your state, regardless of where you are. This might be a playlist of songs that instantly fire you up, a set of affirmations you speak aloud, or a visualization of your goals that reignites your energy. These tools act as switches you can flip whenever negativity tries to take over. Emotion is also tied closely to motion. The fastest way to shift out of a negative state is to move your body. Exercise, dancing, walking, or even shaking out tension can instantly break the cycle of negativity. That's because motion changes the chemistry in your body. Endorphins are released, blood flows more effectively, and stress hormones decrease. It's almost impossible to stay in a dark state while your body is in vigorous motion. That's why successful people often use physical rituals like power poses, stretching, or short workouts to reset their state throughout the day. It's a reminder that you don't need to wait for your emotions to change before you act. You can use action to change your emotions. Another important layer in controlling your state is mental rehearsal. Visualization is a powerful tool for shaping your state in advance. If you take a few minutes each day to visualize yourself handling challenges with confidence, speaking with clarity, or achieving your goals, your brain begins to condition itself to act as though it has already succeeded. This pre-programming helps you enter situations in a stronger state because your mind already rehearsed victory. Negativity loses its grip when your mind has been trained to see yourself as capable and prepared. By practicing this daily, you create a reservoir of positive states you can draw from whenever life tries to pull you down. Ultimately, taking control of your state is about mastering your inner world so that external circumstances no longer dictate how you feel or act. Life will always present difficulties, but negativity only thrives when you surrender your state to those difficulties. By using your physiology, focus, language, environment, motion, and visualization, you build the ability to shift your state on command. You are no longer a passive participant waiting for something good to happen before you feel good. You become the driver, creating the state you need to face life with energy, clarity, and strength. This is one of the most powerful ways to crush negativity, because once you master your state, You master your response to everything life puts in front of you.